Sandra clapped for attention, calling my wedding a silly outdoor party. She announced to the guests that she and Douglas were flying to Nevada. My brother, Jordan, was detained for fraud, and she demanded $50,000 for bail. I refused to drain my accounts hours before walking down the aisle. She wanted everyone to hear, "If you don't save your brother, you are a heartless daughter." By morning, they were gone. If you have ever been treated like an emotionless ATM by your own blood, let me know where you are listening from and what time it is right now. I watched from the shadows as Sandra and Douglas dismantled my wedding. Douglas shoved floral arrangements into a van, while Sandra gathered early gift envelopes, stealing anything of value for fast cash. An aunt walked past me. "Don't look like that, Jocasta," she muttered. "A wedding can be replanned and rescheduled. A man locked in a cell cannot wait." They hollowed out my wedding day for Jordan's mistakes. To them, I was just raw material to strip away. I stood alone in the barren courtyard, shedding no tears. By 11, the remaining guests had gathered. I refused to absorb their pity. The string trio began, and I walked down the aisle alone, passing 2 empty front-row chairs bearing Sandra and Douglas's names. I let the profound absence speak for itself. At the altar stood Gavin. I had known him for exactly 3 weeks. He watched me approach with profound respect and took my hand. "You look like a woman who owns the earth she walks on," he murmured. "We said our vows." When the officiant asked who gave this woman away, I looked at the empty chairs and said, "I give myself." A guest was recording. By midnight, the clip had hundreds of thousands of views. The internet loves a resilient victim. But they had no idea who was holding my hand. At 4 in the afternoon, an unknown Nevada number flashed on my phone. I accepted the collect call. "Did you wire the money?" "I am getting married today, Jordan," I said, my voice completely flat. "You can get a husband anytime, Jocasta," he scoffed. "I am sitting in a holding cell. Sandra said you had $50,000 liquid in your business account. Stop being a selfish brat, hang up, and call the bank." "I am not your bank," I replied evenly. I hung up and blocked his number for the first time in my life. Meanwhile, the viral video reached the regional president of my father's real estate conglomerate. By Monday, Douglas's boss would recognize Gavin. The trap was set. In my family, I was the load-bearing wall. I learned this at 9, when my architecture finals fell on the same day as Jordan's soccer match. Jordan threw a tantrum. Sandra sighed. "You are the strong one, Jocasta. You never need us to hold your hand to succeed. Your brother needs the emotional support right now." They left. I won first place standing alone. I learned the cardinal rule Jordan requires. Jocasta sustains. 2 years before my wedding, Sandra barged into my grandmother Iris's home, furious about a meeting with an estate attorney. "Are you changing the will?" Sandra demanded, reaching for Iris's handbag. "I do not believe you. Show me the legal files. Give me your spare house key right now." "You do not get to audit my life, Sandra," Iris said. "After everything I do to take care of you, you are going to let some stranger handle the family money. You are losing your mind." "It is not family money," Iris replied coldly. "It is my money, and you are treating me like a walking safe." Iris evicted her daughter. When Sandra stormed out, I picked up a dropped business card. Silas Vance, attorney at law. Months later, Iris was on a ventilator, while my parents complained about parking costs. I held Iris's hand. "Jocasta," she whispered, "do you know why I never asked you to hold my money? Why I never put your name on a single bank account?" "No," I answered. Iris smiled and closed her eyes. She died that evening, leaving me nothing. Her estate went to a historical society. Watching Sandra scream at the executor, I realized Iris hadn't left me impoverished. She had left me unburdened. I built my firm from the ground up. During a late-night renovation, I met Gavin. Assuming the tall man hauling doors was a day laborer, I pointed at him. "Hey," I called out. "I need those antique doors stacked perfectly against the west wall. Do not scratch the original varnish. Move them now." He nodded. For 3 days. He showed up to sweep docks and hold ladders. I had no idea I was bossing around the billionaire who owned the block. We fell in love in 21 days. I didn't care about his real estate fund. I cared that a man who could buy the city swept floors to talk to me. We planned a wedding funded by my business. Instead of celebrating my victory, my family stripped the venue to bail out a criminal. On our honeymoon, I finally checked my phone. I had dozens of missed calls, plus an urgent email request from Douglas's regional president for Mrs. Vance. They knew my married name before my mother did. I played Sandra's voicemails. The first was pure venom. "Jocasta, I saw that pathetic little stunt with the empty chairs online. You are embarrassing this family. Take the video down immediately and wire the bail money. Jordan is suffering in a cell because of your selfishness." The second revealed raw panic. "People are calling my phone. Jocasta. Strangers are sending me awful messages about abandoning you. Fix this now. Call whoever posted it and threaten to sue them. Handle it." The third came Monday morning. Her voice trembled. "Jocasta, it's Mom. Call me back right now. Please. Your father's boss just saw the wedding video. He called Douglas into his private office." "Jocasta, who is the man in the video? The man you married? Who is he?" 32 years later, she finally asked who he was. I let Gavin listen to the voicemails. "You know I can stop this immediately," Gavin said. "One phone call to the regional president of that firm. I can make this entire situation vanish. Douglas would never even know how close he came to losing his career." "I don't want you to stop it," I said. "I don't need you to ruin Douglas." I continued. "I need you to do absolutely nothing. I need everyone to just keep being exactly who they already are. That is all it takes." "Asymmetric warfare," he murmured. "My family fights with noise," I explained. "They use volume, drama, and public spectacles to force people into submission. If I scream back, if I hire lawyers right now or go to the press, Sandra wins. She gets to tell everyone that I am the unstable, dramatic daughter ruining the family. I am not going to fight her on her own battlefield. Silence is the only weapon I have ever truly needed. I just have to let the truth arrive on its own schedule." I like it. It requires an immense amount of discipline. "I was raised to be a load-bearing wall," I said. "Discipline is the only thing I have left." I left my phone face down. By Tuesday, the video hit 3 million views. Sensing the shift, Sandra played the victim. A cousin sent me her new video. "I am the mother in that wedding video everyone is sharing," Sandra began, her voice trembling. "And I need the world to know that there are two sides to every family story. My daughter has been distant from us for a very long time. We had a genuine, life-or-death family emergency that morning. My son was in terrible trouble, and we had to make a heartbreaking choice. It destroyed me to miss her special day. We even had to sell our own belongings just to afford the emergency travel. I have prayed every single day that she would let us back into her heart. Now that she has married into money, she won't even answer my phone calls. Please stop sending us hate. We are a grieving family." For 18 hours, the comments turned against me. Briefly, I considered posting Jordan's jail records, but I remembered Iris's posture. You do not get to audit my life. Responding would only feed Sandra's drama. Social media fades, but corporate damage is permanent. On Wednesday, Douglas bypassed my block and called Gavin's business line. "Jocasta," Douglas said, devoid of his usual arrogance. "Please do not hang up. Mr. Caldwell wants to see me in his office tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Douglas continued. "His executive assistant specifically requested that you attend. Jocasta. He saw the video. He saw the man you married. I do not know what is happening, but my entire career is on the line here." "I know," I said. "Will you come?" Douglas pleaded. "Just come to the office. Explain to him that this is a private family misunderstanding. Tell him we are working through it." He wanted me to be the load-bearing wall one last time. "I will be there at 10, I said, and ended the call. The next morning, Gavin drove me to Douglas's firm. "You do not have to be gentle in that room," Gavin said. "I know," I replied, "but I am going to be exactly that. Gentle is the one thing that frightens my mother the most. It means she has completely lost control of the script." Inside Mr. Caldwell's office were Caldwell, a sickly-looking Douglas, and Sandra. She had positioned the only empty chair to face her, attempting to force me into a subordinate role. I ignored it and stood by the window. "Mrs. Vance?" Mr. Caldwell said, standing up immediately. "Thank you for coming in during what should be your honeymoon. I apologize for the unprecedented nature of this meeting. It is no trouble at all. Mr. Caldwell?" I said smoothly. "I will be entirely direct," Mr. Caldwell said. "A video of your wedding has been circulating online. Ordinarily, the personal family matters of my employees are strictly outside my purview, but this specific situation is highly irregular because of the identity of the man you married. With all due respect, Mr. Caldwell," she interrupted. "Jocasta married some day laborer she met 3 weeks ago at a construction site. We were terribly worried about her mental state. It is hardly a matter for corporate concern." Douglas groaned in defeat. "Sandra," he said, "do you have absolutely any idea who your daughter married?" "A man named Gavin, I believe. Some temporary worker. Why does it possibly matter?" "It matters a great deal to the future of this conglomerate," Mr. Caldwell replied quietly. "Who is he?" Douglas whispered, looking at me with genuine fear. "Jocasta, who did you marry?" "His name is Gavin Vance," I said casually. "He is the founder and primary shareholder of Vance Capital Management." I shifted my gaze to Mr. Caldwell. "I believe your firm has been aggressively trying to secure Mr. Vance as an anchor investor for the new waterfront revitalization project for the past 2 years." "That is entirely accurate," Mr. Caldwell confirmed. "We have been courting Mr. Vance's private office since before your father was even promoted to his current regional position." "That," Sandra stammered, "that is not possible. Jocasta works in dusty old buildings. She does not associate with men of that caliber. We met on a construction site." "Sandra," I interrupted. "He was inspecting a property his firm had recently acquired. I was managing the historical restoration. I fell in love with a man in a dusty canvas jacket because he treated me with profound respect. You never once asked for his last name. You never asked what he did for a living. You assumed he was worthless because you assume everything attached to me is worthless. If you have ever been underestimated by your family because they never asked who you really are, hit like and subscribe." "Sandra," I said, "do you know exactly why Jordan's cryptocurrency venture in Nevada collapsed so spectacularly last week?" "The market fluctuated," she stammered defensively. "Investors pulled out. It was an unpredictable financial emergency. That is why he needed the $50,000. That is why we had to. No, I interrupted softly. It was not a market fluctuation. It was a complete, structural failure of a scam. 1 month ago, a major investment firm conducted a standard due diligence audit on a promising tech startup in Nevada. During that audit, their analysts discovered hollow ledgers, entirely fabricated user data, and a textbook financial fraud scheme. That investment firm was Vance Capital Management. Gavin's team flagged the fraud and legally killed the funding in a single afternoon. Gavin had already dismantled Jordan's entire criminal operation weeks before he and I had even formally met. Sandra's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Let me make this perfectly clear for you, Sandra, I continued. You stole the floral arrangements from my wedding venue. You looted the gift envelopes. You abandoned your only daughter at the altar to fly across the country to bail out a criminal. And you did all of it to try and salvage a dead project that my husband had already rightfully executed. Douglas choked. They had sacrificed everything for nothing. Douglas, Mr. Caldwell said, his voice lethal. I believe this concludes our current business. I suggest you take the remainder of the week to focus entirely on your complex family matters. We will conduct a thorough review of your regional directorship status on Monday morning. It was a professional execution. Douglas realized he had thrown away a 15-year career for a son who used him as an ATM. Mr. Caldwell, please, you must understand. We were manipulated. Jordan lied to us. We had absolutely no idea the project was fraudulent. If Jocasta had simply told us who Gavin was, none of this. Sandra, I cut her off. You did not skip the wedding because you didn't know he was wealthy. You skipped the wedding because you believed I was worthless. They were escorted out, stripped of their power. I finally felt clean. If you are ready to witness the perfect reversal, comment below on how you would have handled that boardroom. Friday arrived the Waldorf Astoria Real Estate Gala, the room Sandra had spent her life trying to access. Gavin was the guest of honor, and I was on his arm. You do not have to prove anything to anyone in that ballroom tonight, he said quietly. I know, I replied. I am not going there to win a fight. I am past fighting. I am going there to stand in the very center of the room my mother worshipped and let her clearly see that I belong there completely without her permission. As we entered, a prominent developer approached. Jocasta, your recent work on the Hudson Valley textile mill restoration is absolutely brilliant, he said. The way you integrated the original steel beams with the modern glass framing. It is the talk of the preservation board. I have been aggressively trying to find your contact information for a week. For an hour, investors sought me out. Then, Sandra spotted me holding court in the stratosphere she craved. She dragged Douglas over, pasting on a smile. There she is, Sandra announced loudly enough for the most important people in the room to hear. My beautiful, brilliant daughter. She threw her arms wide to force an embrace. I took a deliberate step backward. Surrounding conversations died. Sandra's smile fractured. Jocasta, sweetheart, she whispered, her voice tight. Do not do this here. People are watching. Be reasonable. Give your mother a hug. I am entirely reasonable, Sandra, I replied, my voice a low murmur. But I do not embrace strangers who steal my wedding flowers to fund felonies. Trapped in her own spotlight, the guests simply watched Sandra fail. I am going to ask you a very simple question, Sandra, I said. Where exactly were you at 11 in the morning? Exactly 3 weeks ago. You know exactly where we were, Sandra finally hissed. I do, I agreed. But I want you to say it out loud. Right here. In the exact room you spent your entire adult life begging to get into. Tell these people why you could not attend your only daughter's wedding. Sandra fractured. After everything I have done for you, she screamed, forgetting the audience. You ungrateful, malicious brat. We raised you. We gave you everything you think you can stand here and humiliate me just because you managed to trap a billionaire. You are nothing without this family. The elite crowd watched her detonate her own dignity. Stop, Sandra, Douglas whispered. The sheer humiliation had finally broken his habit of enabling her. Douglas, do not tell me to stop, Sandra shrieked. She is right, Douglas said, his voice cracking. We abandoned her. We stole the flowers from her venue. We took the envelopes to bail out Jordan. We stripped her wedding bare because we assumed she would just understand, because we trained her to absorb all of our mistakes. Sandra staggered backward, finding no sympathy, and violently pivoted. You manipulated my mother, she yelled, pointing at me. You poisoned Iris against us. You convinced her to cut us out of the inheritance because you are a greedy, calculating opportunist. Silas, my grandmother's attorney, stepped from the crowd. Mrs. Sandra, Silas said with resonant authority. My name is Silas. I served as the primary estate counsel for your late mother, Iris. And I can assure everyone present that Jocasta had absolutely no influence over your mother's final financial directives. Then why did she leave this brat everything? Why did she cut her own son and daughter out of the trust? You are fundamentally mistaken, Silas replied. Iris did not leave Jocasta a single dollar. She left her absolutely nothing. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Your mother recognized a profound truth about this family's dynamic, Silas explained. She knew that if she left Jocasta a significant financial inheritance, you and your son would immediately view it as a fresh account to drain. By leaving Jocasta absolutely nothing, Iris eliminated her value as a financial target. It was the most calculating, protective maneuver a grandmother could possibly execute. She forced Jocasta to build a fortress of her own making, a fortress you cannot currently access and will never breach. Sandra desperately dug into her handbag. You are lying, she shrieked. I am the executor. I am the daughter. She pulled out a crumpled stack of documents. I have a signed power of attorney, signed by my mother exactly 3 days before she passed away. I will sue you, Jocasta. I will tie your precious architectural company up in litigation for the next decade. Silas extracted a thin leather folder. You hold a power of attorney drafted by a strip mall notary and signed while your mother was heavily medicated on terminal pain management narcotics, Silas stated with legal finality. I possess the comprehensive medical records from her attending physician explicitly declaring her completely incapacitated during that specific 72-hour window. Sandra lowered the papers. Furthermore, Silas continued. Exactly 2 years ago, Iris and I established a fully funded irrevocable trust. You cannot override an irrevocable trust with a fraudulent, last-minute power of attorney. Sandra, you have no claim to her legacy. Your documents are entirely worthless paper. The papers slipped to the marble. Her collapse was silent. By Tuesday, I blocked Sandra and every relative who dismantled my wedding. Douglas was terminated. Jordan was indicted. Silence was no longer a weapon. It was my life. 6 months later, I opened the Iris Architectural Restoration Center, built entirely with my firm's capital. Gavin stood beside me. At the opening, I didn't mention toxic families. We are taught to admire the decorative finishes, I said, but the true value of any structure lies entirely in the invisible foundation holding it together. For a very long time, I believed my purpose was to quietly bear the weight of structures that were fundamentally designed to collapse. This center exists to teach you how to build fortresses that actually protect you. The ghost of my younger self was finally at peace. A year later, Douglas asked for a 30-minute coffee. I agreed. He looked older, stripped of arrogance. "You look well, Jocasta," he said. "I am very well," I replied evenly, keeping the conversation rationed. "I lost the house," he admitted. "Sandra and I are finalizing the divorce, and Jordan's legal fees completely drained whatever pension I managed to salvage." "I spent my entire life being reasonable when I should have been brave," Douglas continued. "I chose the easiest path every single time Sandra demanded a sacrifice, and I let you pay the absolute highest price for my cowardice. I am profoundly sorry that I abandoned you at that altar." "I accept your apology, Douglas," I said. "But I need you to understand that acceptance does not mean a return to the previous dynamic. We will not spend holidays together. You will not have access to my private life. We can share a cup of coffee once a year, exactly like this, for exactly as long as mutual respect is maintained." "I understand. I accept the terms." It was a cold, regulated relationship, but it was safe. The next morning, Gavin handed me a coffee. I thought of Sandra seeking new audiences, Jordan in a federal facility, and Iris's brilliant, empty-handed gift. I finally understood Iris's lesson. True power is knowing your property line and locking the gate. I built my foundation, and I owned it. Legacy isn't inherited money. It's the courage to ensure you never become their wallet again. If this story gave you the strength to close the door on toxic relationships, share this video. Thank you for walking down this aisle with me.